right, we are back with another reaction video. Today we've got Brett Cooper on the Chris Williamson podcast, and they're talking about dating, the state of modern dating in 2024. So let's have a look.
How would you categorize the state of dating advice for young people at the moment?
Terrible. It's awful. It's a treacherous landscape. It is just barren. One thing that I've been talking a lot about on the show, and I would actually love to hear your thoughts on this because we've talked about dating here and there. I just don't think my generation knows how. Like, I was never taught how to date. My first dating experiences were on dating apps, which is wild.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It's not just her generation, it's my generation as well, because she's Gen Z, I'm a millennial. None of us really know how to date, but there's a few reasons for that. Main one is that we're actively told stuff that does not work at all. We're told things that aren't actually accurate. So you have women who believe that what they want from a man is someone who's completely equal to them in all ways. That's what they've been taught. But then they're physically responding to men who are dominant over them, men who are bigger than them, stronger than them, men who are effectively their superiors. That's what they're physically responding to, but they have been conditioned to believe that they don't want that at all. And then on the flip side, you've got men who have been told, no, don't be masculine, don't be dominant, be really meek and be very submissive, and never ever approach a woman, because if you do so, you're creepy. But then, of course, when they don't approach women, the women don't actually approach them. There's loads of things where nobody shows you. Not only do people not show you how to date, but they actively tell you stuff that goes against the reality as well. Then when you add to it, we have things like social media and dating apps. And it's like, is social media a great tool effectively? Yeah, it is. But one thing that social media has done is that it has made the world so much smaller. So like back in my day, I am 42. So back when I was like 20, the only girls that I could possibly see, or the only men that the girls around me could possibly see, were those they actually knew. Or at the best, they'd be those that they saw when they went to bars and clubs. It was pretty much it. So the average woman living in Birmingham, like back then, 20 years ago, her pool of dating men was very slim. It was who did she see on her way to work, who did she see at work, who were her friends, who were the friends of her friends, and who did she see at bars and clubs. Today, a woman's got endless choice, endless supply. There is all of these men on dating apps, and you just swipe, and you forget that these are actually human beings. You totally forget that. They just become like little commodities. It's like when you're on a dating app, it's kind of like looking for a show on Netflix. It's pretty much the same thing. Show, no. You don't care about the fact that these shows have had teams of people, hundreds of people who have worked on them and cared so much about making the show a success. And that by you just dismissing the show, you're kind of dismissing their work and maybe hurting their chance to feed their families in future. We don't even really care. So no, yes, no. That's kind of what people do. And yeah, social media just makes that stuff even worse, because on social media now, men and women, but women more specifically for this point, how many high value men are on social media now? How much guys can you see doing extremely cool things which the average man is not doing? But there's so much of it on social media. In fact, that stuff permeates the majority of what you see on social media. So it creates a skewed perception where we think that the guy who is traveling to Dubai and to Miami and to Singapore and to London and to Bali, we think that the guy that does that every year, like 5 times a year, is going to all those places annually, while having a fantastic body, while being in first class, while partying with all sorts of cool people. That doesn't seem like something unrealistic that you'd see in a Hollywood film, which was how people used to see it. Now that actually feels very normal. Now that feels real. Now that feels attainable. And then when that feels attainable, it's like there's a disconnect between women, because women are wanting the kind of guy that some of their friends have probably dated. Like, the man does exist. It's not like the man doesn't exist at all. But really rarely. But for the most part, they've just seen this man online. For the most part. And then when they speak to the average regular man, the average regular man doesn't feel very important or very impressive. He feels below average. You know, there's that saying that women find 80% of men to be below average today. This is why.
And so I hear about young men not wanting to approach women, and obviously there's the Me Too movement. There's a lot of concerns about rejection. Women are now saying, by and large, they want to be approached, but obviously so many women are just like, oh, that's creepy, whatever. It's just very confusing. There are nuances in dating and approaching women and starting relationships that you kind of have to just learn. And my generation, I don't think we've ever had to do that. I mean, again, like I went to UCLA, was 18, but I went in as a junior. And I joined a sorority because I wanted to have like the all-American traditional experience. Wanted to do something traditional for once in my life. And right after I rushed the sorority and got in, I was sitting in a room with my big, and she was like,
Your what?
My big. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so in Greek life, you have like bigs and littles. So I was somebody's little. So when I joined the sorority, there was somebody who had already joined a year prior.
Right.
And they like usher you in, or your mentor, your friend.
Cool.
Yeah,
okay.
Bigs and littles. So I was with my big.
We're on the same page. Yep.
Yes. And fraternities have that as well. Anyway, I was sitting with her in her room, and they were shocked that I had never been on Tinder, that I had never dated before. They were shocked that I was a virgin. I mean, it was just like, like, this is insane. How could you? And I mean, and I found out later on, I mean, these girls had, multiple abortions and were very, very sexually and, relationship-wise ahead of me. And I had not thought anything of it up until this point because I hadn't been around it, and I just kind of stayed in my own bubble. And they're like, well, you got to get on Tinder. You got to do it. And there's no hazing allowed at UCLA. There's especially not in sororities, but they kind of made a joke, and they're like, you're going to be your hazing. You need to get on dating apps. This is how you're going to date. And it was so weird. The boy that I dated in college, like my college boyfriend, met on Hinge. Like that was how I dated. That's how everyone around me dated. And so when I hear, people online, when I'm reading in the comment section, like, I don't know how to approach somebody, I'm so nervous, girls not knowing how to respond. Mm-hmm. It's because we've completely lost that.
She is speaking as though back in the day, people were taught how to date, which they never were. So to just keep it a buck, it's not like if you was to go back 50 years, there were pamphlets on the actual realities of dating. There weren't. So things like sex and getting into relationships, you've always just kind of had to figure your way through. It's like nowadays we speak about sex and how to please a woman and this and this. Back in the day, nobody discussed that at all. They didn't. And most women were actually quite sexually unsatisfied because their husbands had no idea how to satisfy them because there was no information out there. In fact, if you were a good woman, you wouldn't be sexually satisfied anyway. You're not supposed to be. You're not supposed to care about those things. And then the women had no idea how to convey their desires to their men either. Like, you know how vibrators came about? The reason that vibrators came about is because they were a tool to cure people of something called hysteria. Okay? So there was this like epidemic of hysteria where women would be like really frantic and freaking out essentially, and then they would go to doctors who would give them clitoral massages. Okay, so the doctor gives a woman a clitoral massage and she had what was known as a paroxysm. But what was a paroxysm? It was an orgasm, but I didn't consider it to be anything sexual because there was no penetration. So anyway, women would go to the doctors like once a week or once every other week for this clitoral massage, and then she would have this paroxysm, and afterwards she calms the hell back down. Okay, but the thing is, it was hard work for doctors, because if you're some doctor, right, you're Dr. Callum, okay, and I've got to see like 10 women a week. But of course, to give one woman a paroxysm takes 5 minutes. To give another woman a paroxysm takes 45 minutes. It's crazy. So they needed something to speed up the process, and that was the vibrator, okay? But when they created the vibrators and they gave them to women, said, here, just like self-medicate, they noticed that women actually started to really enjoy them. That it wasn't like a medicinal thing, it was a sexual thing. Although I'd argue it was medicinal even if it was sexual. It's not the point. So then they're like, we can't have this anymore. And vibrators became like this naughty, dirty thing. But anyway, that's the point I'm making. It's like there was no education about dating and sex back then. There wasn't. So we can't like lionize the past. However, what they did do in the past was that they were very honest about, in general, what men and women are attracted to. And because they were very honest about that, well, people were allowed to just kind of bumble their way through, because they weren't operating under false narratives about what gender relationships are actually like. This is what I would say.
It's not their fault. It's because they've just gone online. You're sliding into DMs, you're swiping right and left, and that's an addictive game in and of itself. And so then now we're seeing, droves of people leaving dating apps, especially with everything that like Bumble did. Bumble had a huge loss when they did their ridiculous rebrand, the most idiotic thing they've ever done. People wanting to be off the apps, but not knowing how to date outside of them. So it really is, it's abysmal for a lot of reasons, but especially that is what I've been thinking about recently.
Yeah, I had this idea of mutually assured deception, which I think is what a lot of people have. They're so scared of opening up because one of the worst things that you can be is gullible and naive in dating. There's something kind of cool about being aloof and a bit sardonic and a bit standoffish. I'm too good for this. There's no way that you could hurt me. Yeah, it's sort of easy come, easy go. Yeah. But I think that is just a suboptimal solution to a suboptimal problem. Yeah. Like that is someone trying to reverse engineer the dating environment into their preferences as opposed to doing it the other way around. Yeah. So you have two people, neither of whom are prepared to open up fully in case they get hurt, both of whom are terrified of being hurt, and both of whom just never show themselves to the other person.
Correct.
So I think that's a big concern. And then when it comes to the approaching thing and the being in real life, it's always been that way. Like the reason that the guy that founded CBT was to overcome his approach anxiety for women. That was originally what it was designed for. So this has happened for as long as time has been around. The difference now, I think, is that any small psychological challenge becomes pathologized and becomes laid at the feet of the modern world. So this is because of Tinder. This is because of online dating. It's like, what if this was just endemic to being a guy? Yeah. That approaching a woman is going to be scary and always going to be scary. And maybe the difference now is that you're just a bit less socially adept. You haven't spent that much more time out and about. You don't have robust social networks. You don't really know as many people, that kind of a thing. Yeah. And what it feels like from the inside is, oh my God, if only it was 50 years ago, this would have been super easy, which actually takes a lot of agency away from you, which would have been, it was going to be hard then in 1960.
It was always going to be hard.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And
see, I kind of disagree with what he's saying, because he's basically saying that finding it difficult to approach a woman is just the way it is, and that men throughout all ages have found it difficult to approach women. And you know what? I'm sure there's significant parts of the world where that's actually been true, but that's not like an endemic thing at all. For instance, in Jamaica, where I'm from, men aren't afraid to approach women at all, and never, ever, ever have been. Ever. In fact, I've known so many women who have been to Jamaica and their minds are blown because they're like, whoa, every man is approaching me. Every man. It's like literally they're walking down the street and maybe they are approached, honestly, 15, 20 times a day. That's how often that happens. And these men live and these men are alive today. When I was growing up, my family's from Jamaica, but I'm not actually Jamaican, if you get it. But when I was growing up, all of my cousins and things like that, they approached girls all the time. And it never looked like they had an issue with it. I had an issue with it, they didn't. What I would say is, like, if you look at like the black community, approach anxiety is like very, very, very uncommon. I had it, but I was just like I was a rarity. Approach anxiety is very uncommon in the black community. Most black guys can just do it. But why? Because they grow up in an environment where people just do it. So for instance, their uncles are giving them game on how to game women. Their uncles are just talking to them about it. Their dads tell them what to do. Their cousins are talking about it. Their friends, they see people doing it. They see it. Like, for instance, when I was like 13 and 14, my cousin used to approach girls all the time. I would see him and his friends, and they'd be just living their lives, and they'd see a girl they liked, and I'd run over to the girl, talk to her, and try and get her number. Which, I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. But anyway, so to go on to what he's saying, it's like, it's not that this is an endemic thing. You can train a human being to be able to do anything. But in Western general society, we have trained men to not be able to approach women.
Conditions
overcome
are
it.
different.
Correct.
The conditions are different, and you have to acknowledge that. But that should not be the reason why you turn inward and just say, never mind, I'm giving it up because there is no hope. There were always going to be problems. There was always going to be hurdles that you had to overcome with dating. Dating is not easy. It's not fun. Nobody likes, opening up, and being very vulnerable and be like, stab me in the heart if you don't like me. I mean, nobody likes that. But if you acknowledge that and understand that, the risk could come with just an incredible reward and an incredible payoff, but you do have to take responsibility and you do have to take those steps. I also think for women especially, women by and large are having, they're setting these insane standards and very, very superficial standards. I mean, you see it on social media. There was that whole trend of like, I want a guy in finance who's 6'5", blue eyes. Did you see that? She wrote this whole song about it.
Yeah.
And it's a joke, but it's not. Because they have this image in their mind of what kind of guy they want. And I think they see a lot of relationships on social media. They see men on social media. This is going to be the guy that's available to me. When you look at those numbers of, the percentage for both men and women of men who are whatever height they want, make, 6 figures plus, are single, are not overweight, are between this age bracket.
It's a rounding error. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same goes for women of like, if you want a woman who is not on the left, is not on any kind of antidepressants, who's, a certain weight, that one is
I love
insane.
the fact that the equivalent for women of a guy being 6 foot and
Yes,
6
is
figures with a six pack
not
is
mental-
not on antidepressants and not on the left.
Yes.
Wow.
Not obese.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, tiny. And obviously I'm not saying have no standards, the bar is, on the floor. But you also have to meet people where they are, and you also have to know what you're bringing to the table.
All right. So this is what I would say, in my expert opinion, hurts people in dating, is that, number one, most people have no idea what they really want. Like, no idea. So I look at women's dating profiles all the freaking time, okay? And what do they say? They say things like, they don't say a damn thing about who they are as people. They don't at all. They just kind of like post pictures of themselves in like little dresses and things like that. Or they might say things like, you've got to be able to make me laugh, or I want you to be consistent. But there's not really much in the way of, this is what I'm looking for in a relationship. Some people do it, but most people don't. Same with men. It's like this. To attract somebody who's going to be right for you, you've got to first know what that is. So it's like, what kind of person? Now, forgetting like, okay, there's physical attributes and stuff. Okay, fine. But like, as a human being, what kind of human being is actually going to resonate with you? Like, what kind of things do you like to do? Do you enjoy reading? Do you like to garden? Do you like to travel the world? Are you a member of some kind of organization or something like this? Like, what is it? What makes you, you? And what are you looking for from a partnership? As in, do you want someone who's going to challenge you? Do you want somebody that you're going to grow with? What is it? Most people have no idea what that is. And the thing is, if you have no idea what it is that you want, you can't actually attract it. So you've got some like man or some woman, and they've got something that they want, okay? But it's a deep down subconscious desire that they can't consciously verbalize, okay? So like, let's take for me, what kind of women does it for Kieran? Well, they're going to be intelligent. Are they going to be beautiful? Yes, they are. Are they going to have a booty? Yes, they will. However, they will be spiritual. They will love deep conversations. They will love children. They will be open-minded. They will be sexually adventurous, right? So, but I've always wanted that. I just didn't know that I wanted it. So before I knew that I wanted it, I couldn't find that woman because I don't know that that's the woman that I want. Okay, so I'll be on a dating app and then I write some generic BS, right? That doesn't attract that kind of woman and just brings in random women. What sort of woman am I looking for? You don't know. It's like I have no freaking clue. So then you go, okay. So let's look at all of the women who I've ever dated and all the women I've ever liked in any way. Okay, in any way. As in every woman I've ever had a positive emotional inclination towards. Why? Okay, so it's like, oh, I liked Madonna because I thought she was really bold and daring. Okay. Oh, I like Rihanna because I think she's really bold and daring too. I like the woman who plays friggin' M in James Bond, Judi Dench. I like her because she seems bold and... Okay, so I like bold and daring women. All right, cool. I really like the fact that my first girlfriend was sweet. I like that about her. And then you start putting all this together. So then once you've actually got it like kind of nailed, like, these are the sorts of women I like, or men if you're a woman watching this, then you go, all right, well, how do I attract that person? So then you would craft an online dating profile that is designed to attract that sort of person. For instance, if you like the idea of being with women who are physically fit and active, you might have a picture of you going for a hike on your profile. Think about it. If you want to be with like an active woman who lives an active lifestyle, you'd have a picture of you doing something active on your profile. Kind of makes sense. If you want a woman who friggin' works out a lot, you would have a picture of you doing some sort of exercise. You would, right? If you want a woman who's spiritually inclined, you might have a picture of you sitting and meditating. You might have a picture of you reading a book. You might have a picture of you doing something in Bali. You tailor your profile to the kind of person you want to meet. But then that's just dating apps. Then what would you do in the real world? Well, if you want to meet women who are very fit and active, well, why the hell aren't you going to gyms and fitness clubs? It kind of speaks for itself, you know? But anyway, people need to be more intentional with their dating, but you need to know yourself, and people don't know themselves. Most people have no idea who the hell they really are, and that is a huge part of why we are where we are in the dating scene.
And be aware of like what you will be able to get, basically. Like what is the mutually, what am I trying to say here? To figure out the right way to phrase this. It's like, who is your equal partner in the dating marketplace?
Do you think that there's a case for settling in that case?
I don't think of it as settling. I think of it as being, again, aware of what your options are and what you're bringing to the table. Like I talk to women all the time and, I want this, I want this, I want this. What are you bringing? Like, are you the type of woman that these men are going to go for? Are you the high value woman? I kind of hate those terms, but the high value woman, the high value man. If you aren't going to the gym, if you aren't taking care of yourself, if you, don't like children, if you only care about your career and you don't want to, if you hate the patriarchy, I don't want to support a man, I don't want to care about a man, and you want a provider man who is, fit, in shape, cares about his health, that's not going to match up. He's not going to go for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so then if you're not seeing what you want in the dating landscape, then I'd say, put it on yourself then. What can you do to level yourself up?
Yeah, so here's one issue with modern dating. Massive issue with modern dating is that we are very comfortable with telling men where they suck, okay? Look at this channel. What do? I tell men all the time, this is where you're lacking and this is where you need to improve. And that's fine and okay, isn't it? But we don't do that with women. And then there are so many women who believe that they are just worthy of every kind of man on the planet. And it's just like, it's not true. For instance, like, I don't date women who are out of shape. I don't. You know why? I do this for two reasons. Number one, I don't like the look. Number two, it's like it reveals a level of a lack of self-respect, because if you do not treat your body well, then you don't treat yourself well. Like if you see a homeless man on the street, right? And he's laying there covered in his own filth, like literally, and maybe he's like wet himself and he's like shit himself and all that kind of stuff. We don't look highly on that man because he doesn't respect himself. Like he is prepared to be in that sort of situation. It shows how he sees himself. Okay, if you go to someone's home and their home is an absolute shit show, that shows a lack of self-respect because they are treating their home like crap. But the thing is that your body is your soul's home. So if you don't treat your body with respect, you don't really respect yourself. It's like, nah. And another reason why I don't get with overweight women? Because if I get with overweight women, I know, and I'm around a lot of women who are beautiful and in shape. And if I get with an overweight woman, she'd be so insecure around those other women, it would just do nothing but cause issues. But the point is this. What we tell women nowadays is that they're all goddesses they're all wonderful, they're all amazing, and that they all deserve the man of their dreams. They all do. And that they can go out and they can expect men to pump themselves up and boost themselves up and work hard and get in shape and build a career and develop personalities and all this sort of stuff, right? But the women don't need to do anything in return. And while women get to sit back in the comfort of that delusion, doesn't really help them, because while they get to sit in the comfort of that delusion, it is still a delusion that doesn't play out in the real world. So then the men that they really covet, these high value men, going for other options, or at the very least are having them as one option amongst many, and they don't really get the man the way that they want because they don't have what is necessary to hold the man's attention.
If you don't like the options that are available to you, what can you do to put yourself in a situation where you're going to meet those types of people and be on their level? Number one, that just makes you a better human being because you're bettering yourself. But then again, it's putting the agency back on themselves of like, you have the opportunity to make the change.
Well, that's a very radical message, I think, to give to women. It's kind of radical to give to men because at the moment there's a lot of sort of despondency and cynicism and melancholy on both sides. But especially for women, there's an insight that I learned a couple of years ago that personal development for men and personal development for women are completely inverted. So men are told that the world is immutable and you are mutable. So you have to wrap yourself up and change yourself in order to fit around the world. And women are told that the world is mutable and you are immutable. You are perfect as you are. And it's the world's problem that you need to change.
That is exactly what I was saying. That is exactly what I was saying. Oh my gosh, that is exactly it. That is so true. Yes, we tell men that they need to change themselves to the world, and we tell women that they are perfect and the world needs to change around them. And only one of those is realistic, okay? Because as a man, as me, I can change me, okay? I can change me. I can do that quite, I mean, it's tough, but I can do that. But bro, changing the whole world, really? So like, look, I'm 5'9", right? Am I going to change the fact that the majority of women want a man to be 5'11" at least? I can't change that. And I don't have the energy to do that either. The energy it would take for me to run around and campaign, right, for this change in social attitude so that women accept men who are like 5'9". I ain't got the energy for that. Luckily for me, there are many women who are happy to be with a 5'9" man, but the fact remains, like, I have to be honest and say, yeah, I do lose out on some women because there are some women who go, a man under 6 foot tall is a friend. It does happen, but you just work around it. So what you do, you build yourself up in other ways. You don't let it bother you. You hold yourself to a high standard, like give yourself some confidence, like it is what it is. Just because, to use a football analogy, just because you're down to 10 men doesn't mean that you can't win the game, Anyway, this video is 29 minutes long, so it's time to end it. But thank you for watching. So now, look. If you've enjoyed the 𝗙𝗪 what would I like you to do? Like the video, like and comment, right? Let me know what you think. And it boosts me in the algorithm as well. So if you've liked this video, by hitting like and commenting, you are telling YouTube to show it to more people, which helps me massively. And also subscribe to the channel, because if you can't see, I do these videos on a regular basis and I do enjoy them. But ciao, see you later and au revoir.